Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 61 of Superannuated Starman. As always, I'm your host, Sean Ryan, and today I'll be joined solo by Cory Braucks. Cory, how are you doing?
Buongiorno.
Cory, this was a game that you recommended to us, and as far as I know, I don't have any history with this game. And
I'm pretty sure I'm the only one.
Yeah. Chris won't be able to join us today. He has some family stuff going on, but I don't think he has any history either, because this game is just kind of definitely a unique and rare kind of title. So everyone out there, expect a short episode. And with that said, please enjoy this music. And when we return, we will discuss the history of Airbuster. Originally developed for the arcades, Airbuster is a 1990 horizontal shmup developed by Kaneko. If you've never heard of Kaneko, that's not very surprising. They did a lot of obscure Japanese-only titles, and even the games that made their way overseas were never really that popular. Having started the company in 1982, they ended up filing for bankruptcy in 2004 and eventually went out of business completely in 2007. As for the game itself, after seeing success in the arcades, even hitting the third most popular arcade game in February of 1990, Airbuster was ported to the Sega Genesis and TurboGrafx-16. The TG-16 getting a rename to Aero Blasters for the international releases. The game is known for its rich visuals, excellent sound design, and engaging combat, but the arcade release was seen as, quote, too easy by some publications. Something that was changed in the console releases as they ramped up the difficulty. The TurboGrafx-16 port was released in November of 1990 in Japan, followed by North America in January of 1991. The Sega Genesis port released in Japan and North America in January and February of 91 respectively. The only major differences between the Sega and TG-16 ports are that the latter received a slightly expanded ending and was given a unique soundtrack for Stage 2. Graphically, in most cases, the Sega Genesis version has more background detail, though I feel that the overall picture is a bit blurrier on the Sega. And I want to note that the Genesis version also had the option to increase your life count, making it substantially easier. If you're looking to play Airbuster today, that's going to be a bit of a challenge, as the Genesis release was last ported to Project EGG, an emulation-based video game distribution service for Windows in 2014, which unfortunately remained exclusive to Japan. And to kind of bulk out this segment a little bit, if you were one to actually get the Sega Genesis cart back in the day, it had the option for a free video game glove inside. That was the Kaneko video game glove. And if you were to look for that on eBay today, as I'm looking literally right now, there is one for $500 and another for $320 that has been, quote, slightly used. So getting your hands on that little bit of history would be very, very difficult.
Dude, it's wild to me how much our childhood goes for nowadays.
Well, we got to the point where we all had disposable income and then just started buying back our childhood.
Yeah, well, I think it's also because we all have no kids, 3 money.
I'm definitely a dink. And for those of you that don't know what that means out there, that's dual income, no kids. And I'm not alone. I know a lot of people my age in my circle.
Dude, I don't like. I think I have one person in my age bracket that I know. No, two if you count my sister. So there's two people with children that I know of, like in my immediate sphere of people.
And even on this show, Chris has one kid and he's my age. He's in his 40s.
Yeah, there you go. That's why he's not here. Let that be a lesson to you, children. Don't have kids because they'll take away your ability to play Airbuster.
Yeah, you could be out there with your family. What is
Anyway,
he doing? What did he say? He was
he's
sledding?
shoveling. He's
Or
shoveling
shoveling
snow.
snow and then sledding. Yeah. So, for those of you that don't know, Chris lives in the Midwest and it is currently undergoing quite the snowfall right now. So, you guys enjoy that? I'm in Texas and it's 44 degrees Fahrenheit and I'm miserable.
Rip.
Exactly. But that's all I've got. It's a short history segment for a short game. With that, stick around, and when we come back, you'll hear about our personal history with the game. Welcome back, everybody. This segment is going to be our memories of the game. For me, I actually don't have any. I maybe played this game through emulation when I was a teenager, but if I did, I have zero memories of it at all. So, Corey, you're going to have to carry this segment. What was it like to play this game back in the day? How'd you get it? Was it a birthday gift, a random gift?
So we owned a copy. I have no idea how this copy made it into the household. I don't know if this was like one of those rentals that just got purchased or if it was something just grabbed. Like I don't even remember if we had like the clamshell case for it or if we just had like the loose, you know, cart in the box because like we ended up having like a big tote full of these games at one point like without having the clamshells.
I want to interject real quick. I love that Sega did those clamshells. It made it so much easier to store games, keep your games nice, pristine. And it was a tragedy when they moved to those really cheap, flimsy cardboard boxes like Super Nintendo was doing.
Yeah, dude, it was pretty sad when they started doing that. Honestly, if those cases were half the size that they manufactured them as, they would probably be a lot nicer because they were the size of a VHS tape when they were something that fit in the palm of your hand basically, but yeah, like I really enjoyed the fact that you could like have those and you could kind of like you didn't have to worry about those getting destroyed in your move, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And it made it easier to kind of loan and trade those games
Yeah.
around because you knew they were going to be or you hoped they were going to be protected. I'm sure that we both have stories about loaning a game out to a kid and it coming back with like dirt or stickers or markers
Oh yeah, all the
or just
time.
never coming back.
Yep, that sounds about right. But yeah, so we own this game. Honestly, I don't know the best way to describe this other than it being like the anime version of Gradius. That's probably like the best way I could like
Um,
conceptualize this because the music is very the music to me is very like 90s like Tokyo like Ghost of the Shell kind of audio, I would say almost, or like Akira. I think that's kind of what I equate it to. And then the art, there's a bunch of like crazy like anime characters on the splash page when you
yeah.
beat the levels and like when the game starts up and everything. And the thing is too is like we ended up comparing the Genesis version to the arcade when you're looking at like the stills. The arcade colors are very much more subdued, so there's like these floating containers that you can shoot open, and they're like this yellow color. In the Genesis version, they're this bright neon yellow, and in the arcade, they're like a very washed out school bus color. So like I just thought that was very interesting, like how the color palette changed when it got moved over to the other systems. But yeah, so it's a lot of fun, and I just remember this probably being one of the best games for me to be able to like pick up and play because it is something that it's a pretty short game. I think it's like 7 levels or something like that. It's probably like a half hour's worth of content, but it is it's pretty challenging. So as a kid, you had a way to kind of kill time with it, and I thought it was a lot of fun. And one of the biggest challenges that I can recall is the fact that when you die, all of your power ups get wiped out. So if you're on a boss or something and you eat it, like there's your day right there.
Did you read the manual for this game?
I honestly cannot recall, possibly because I don't know if we had the manual or not.
Okay, I'll save it from my section, but it's something else.
Yeah.
There's a lot that I want to talk about just about the manual itself.
So see, I think this might have been a used title that we got, and I think it might have been one of those situations where like so there are a lot of like old school like mom and pop like family video type of rental places that you could get games from back in the day, like before Blockbuster became like a giant. And one of them, I think I've mentioned it before, but it was like this Schneider's pharmacy, and it was like this corner grocery store, and it had this like row of old school steel shelves, and it had rental games there, and then they would sell the games that I think were older or like weren't performing as well and weren't getting as many rentals. So they were trying to like recoup their money that way. But the thing is that they didn't leave them in the original clamshells. They would put them in like this clear square case so you could see what the game was, but like it was the rental case basically. And that's like what half of my titles ended up being in at some point, because that was like kind of the second hand case that you would find these in. So I don't think I had the manual because I think it ended up being in one of those like square cases
The GameStop model of destroying cases long before GameStop existed.
basically. But yeah, I mean, this one was a lot of fun. It had co-op support, so like I could play with my siblings. So like everyone who's listening knows that I have 3 siblings, so there was a lot of time where like you had to share the screen with people. So this was one where like where you could sit down and be like, "Hey, listen, we're gonna just play some Airbuster. It's gonna be a good co-op game. It's not like a fighter where we're gonna be against each other. Where like we're it ends up with 2 people yelling at each other or something like that." So it was just a lot of fun, and like I said, it was like a lot of explosions, and it's kind of like a bullet hell where it's like a side-scrolling spaceship Gradius style game. So there's just a lot of flying around and shooting at stuff and beating up the alien invaders or whatever the plot is for the game, and it was just a lot of fun. And it's kind of one of those no mind games that is just kind of gone by the wayside now in the modern era.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. You have to have a gimmick or something very unique to stand out, especially with the plethora of indie titles out there that are truly exceptional games. So you got to really be unique this day and age. But I guess In 1990, you could just kind of do
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, like, back in the day we weren't really spoiled for choice, but nowadays it's like for every Cuphead you have 10 more titles that some guy cranked out in an afternoon and is just trying to make a buck off of.
Yeah, you're not lying. Well, do you have anything else as far as memories go?
Nothing to really like specifically touch on other than the fact that, like I said, it was just kind of one of those fun pick up and play games that you could sit down and kill an afternoon with. And I usually ended up getting, I think, maybe 3 levels in, I would say, off the top of my head, 3 or 4 levels in. And then things started getting to be like, it was very tenuous, my grip on being able to beat it. But I did beat it as a kid. That's one thing I do specifically remember. Because a lot of these titles, I'm going to say, I didn't end up beating them because a lot of games back in the day were just very hard.
Did you just crank up the life counter? That way you could get through the
No,
game,
it
just kind
was
of
just
brute
like a
forcing it?
summer of like playing it as a 9-year-old.
Was it on the like default difficulty or hardest
Yeah,
or
I don't think I messed with anything. I think I just left it as whatever it started as.
okay. Yeah, that's kind of a thing that I never really went through the menus too much on. Well, that's not true. Like for my Super Nintendo games, I feel like I really went through the menus, but for Sega, I feel like I just kind of was mashing the button trying to get to the action because
Well,
the Genesis was like bringing the arcade to your home. So
and the thing is with the Genesis, a lot of those titles, if you go back through them, there's not really a lot to adjust. It's always like, okay, so you can either up your life counter, or you can like play with the music files or whatever. But there's really not like a lot of crap in those menus for you to really change. I think more often than not, there's really not a difficulty slider.
that's true, especially because when we discussed it before, because of the rental market in America, they really didn't want a lot of people to be able to beat these games in the weekend and bring it back. And like you
Right.
mentioned, the game is not very long, so I'm not too surprised that this eventually ended up on their for sale shelf.
And it's one of those games too where it doesn't have a IP behind it, so it's not like Sonic, it's not like Mario, it doesn't have this big draw back in the 90s where, even on the Genesis you had things like Vector Man and Toe Jam and Earl and like some of those other things where it's like, oh, I recognize those characters. Like this one's just like a weird Japanese throwaway without any sort of backing from a smaller studio, so it did kind of just fly under the radar for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, I don't think this was ever going to be in EGM.
Yeah, exactly. I've never seen an arcade cabinet of it either.
I have not. I've knew nothing about this game really before you mentioned it. Well, again, I guess that's not 100% true, and I'll explain why in the next segment.
All right, I'm here for it.
All right, well, if you're ready, we can take another break and we can come back and we can start talking about that.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, everyone, in this segment, we're going to be discussing what it was like to replay these games in the modern day. So, Corey, like we were just talking about, I never played this game on the Sega Genesis when I was younger. I never played it on the TurboGrafx 16 when I was younger. I never played it in the arcades. And I honestly thought I had never heard of this game whatsoever until I started digging through all of my stuff because I have a spreadsheet to track all of my games because I've a lot, several
Yeah.
thousand at this
Yeah,
point.
I've seen your list.
And I looked and I saw that I had the Japanese title of this for TurboGrafx 16.
Oh, okay.
And I actually own a modded Japanese TurboGrafx, better known as the PC Engine there. And I had the Who card or Hue card, whatever it's pronounced. So that's how I played it initially for about 20 minutes because I kept getting absolutely bodied. And then I resorted to emulation and using save states for the second version because it was just it was so hard on the TurboGrafx 16. The difference between the Sega and the TG16 was night and day. I could blow through that game. I I played it on default, and initially it was default and max lives because I was like, okay, I gotta play through this game, and it's obviously gonna be very,
Yeah.
very difficult. Not the case. I didn't use half of my lives, and so I cranked it up to hardest difficulty setting, and that's when I used a couple save states every once in a while just to get through some of the bosses. But even then, I felt like it was pretty easy.
Okay.
As far as the gameplay itself goes, I know that on every show someone's the dissenting person, and today it's me. I thought it was pretty bland, to be honest.
Yeah, that's
A lot
fair.
of the enemy ships come out on screen and basically just kind of sit there motionless or with very little movement, no real interesting patterns. At least early on. It does change a little bit, but early on they're just kind of fish in a barrel.
Oh yeah, like the game is very straightforward, and the computer is essentially like, here's the lane I'm taking,
Yes.
and then here's the bullets that I'm going to shoot, and then they just hang in the air.
Yes, there's no like at least early on, there's no waving patterns or distractions and stuff like that. And speaking of early on, and I really did enjoy this part, not even 3 minutes into the game, you go from this upbeat, happy music with a bright blue sky to lasers raining down on the city around you.
Yeah, the city
And you
gets leveled.
Exactly. You see it turn to rubble. Now, that's a great way to introduce the stakes in your game, which I should mention, like most games of this type, there's no dialogue boxes explaining what's happening or why. So, like I said before, I dove into the manual and I'm going to read this out to you verbatim.
All right, I'm listening.
In the year 2030, the Mega Load Masters, all capitalized, suddenly attacks planet Earth, plotting to kill every living creature on it. They cover their bodies with seemingly invincible mechanisms, and their offensive strength is too overwhelming for any country's military power. The Earth is apparently doomed. But one person by the name of Charles K. Takeda had
Oh
foreseen this
man.
happening and prepared for its coming. With his family and friends, Charles moves to an unknown island in the Pacific to develop the ultimate weapon called the Buster Sitem. It's supposed to be system, but it's misspelled. Anyhow, the Buster System is a futuristic weaponry that can destroy metal and elements of matter at will, simply by increasing special waves emitted by the human mind.
By the human mind? Okay.
By the human mind. Various hypernatural phenomena can happen by using the Buster System, such as moving of material elements or distraction of space, etc., without contact. Charles developed two super machines loaded with Buster Systems, Buster 1 and 2. He trained his daughter Holly and his son Mike to pilot the Buster Systems and sent them on an impossible mission to defeat the Mega Load Masters. First off, Dad, you're why are you sending your children on an impossible mission? Why don't you do it? Okay, you
Listen,
built it.
John Q. Buster here has got to create the robot system, and then he's got to create his little Mega Man children to go save the world.
Every bit of this just really it felt like the ravings of a madman. It's clearly translated from Japanese and not very well. And the manual itself, and this is scanned copies of the Sega Genesis manual that I'm talking about here. It is riddled with spelling errors. Just like the Buster's Saitem,
Yeah.
there's so much more where it talks about the different types of shots that you get, like the homing shot, the spread shot. They're not called that, but the different types. There's It's just riddled with grammatical
They're just
errors and
yeah,
spelling errors.
incorrectly made.
It's just I get it. I get it. They're a small studio. Obviously, they went out of business. They didn't have a lot of money backing this, but come on, man.
Dude,
Like,
and this goes back to what we've talked about in the past where like we just had these crazy Japanese translations where some guy probably in Japan, they hired some like foreign national that was like, yeah, this looks right, and then it went to print.
that is literally how it must have happened because there's no other explanation for it. A 12-year-old could look at it and be like, that's not a real word. That's not right.
Yeah, but like you're paying some guy that speaks Japanese at like a fifth grade level to just be like, yeah, I don't know what a Saitem is, but that's got to be some sort of weird like Japanese laser that they're doing.
And speaking of weird Japanese laser, everything about this just can destroy metal and elements of matter at will simply by increasing special waves emitted by the human mind. What is he talking about?
Listen, I don't think you're as impressed with John Buster as you should be.
I'm not. This is just absolutely wild. But the game itself, talking about the game, I'm going to stop trashing this because again, they were a small studio and all that, but it was just kind of meh. It didn't have a lot going for it. The stages were pretty interesting, and I'm going to talk about those maybe a little bit more later. But it's just so I don't know. I don't even know how to say it. I do like your analogy that you were comparing it to Akira.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely kind of see that now that you say that. But when I was playing through this, I was like, Cory.
So here's the thing. Um, I guess bleeding into my modern playthrough a little bit here, this did not hold up well. I mean, it's a perfectly serviceable title, and I
Yeah,
have like fond childhood memories of it, but it is just very like one dimensional, and a lot of, as you said, a lot of the enemies they kind of take a static lane on the screen, and the bullets that they shoot are not really traveling at you so much as like just hanging there in the air. So it's a lot of you just, if you can maneuver through crap on the screen, you could definitely get through the game.
I said I was done crapping on the manual. I'm coming back.
Okay.
The bosses. Do you know any of their names by
Oh,
chance?
dude, is it gonna be something ridiculous like big ship guy or something?
Okay, so it only gives you the names of 4 of the 6 bosses. There's 6 levels, and I'm gonna read off the levels and the bosses that correspond to them. The first level is Seaside Front. That boss's name, Evil Face.
Evil furs.
And anybody out there that's trying to like put together, oh man, it must be a giant face. It's not.
No, it's a giant ship that shoots cigarettes at you.
Yeah, it's just a ship like any other. Nothing crazy. Stage 2 is the mechanized cave. The boss, Shellframe. I can get behind that. Stage 3, Scramble.
Scramble.
Whatever the hell that. Okay, sure. It's boss Bit Station. Okay, now we're a bit more into the Robotech kind of. It just sounds more appropriate. Stage 4 is a space stage, and it's called Out of Gravity. Awesome. Its boss, Murder Doll.
Murder doll.
Murder Doll. That sounds like a death metal band that came out in the early 2000s. Stages 5 and 6, in the manual, it does not even list the boss's name. So I have no idea who the final boss of the game is. I tried Googling it,
Dude,
I tried looking
I'm
around.
telling you, like, I think it was just the fact that you had a guy who couldn't speak Japanese, and he was just asked to translate this, and he just started making stuff up.
Yes, it has to be made up because nothing really corresponds to anything other than mechanized cave. All right, seaside front, sure. Out of Gravity, it's space level. Scramble doesn't make any sense. Stage 5 is called The Borderline.
And I'm looking at the list here. Stage 6 is called Death Circus.
Death Circus. And the music for that stage is incredibly upbeat and poppy, and it doesn't mesh at all with the name of the stage.
I will say about this, I love the audio for this game, though. There's so many bangers in this.
I originally wrote down that the music wasn't very good, but when getting ready for the show and putting all the music together, I do a lot of pre-production stuff.
Yeah, you have to sit there and listen to it.
I actually do dig it. It is pretty good. So I agree with you. The music is pretty good. I don't like the music for Death Circus. I think that's terrible because it just doesn't. It
It's
just
like
doesn't.
this. It's the second stage where you're on rails, or like you're flying through the cavern or whatever, the parking garage level.
Yeah,
That one,
Mechanized Cave.
I really like that one.
Yes, that's really good too. And I actually have some stuff to talk about in our final thoughts when we get there. But tell me more about your modern playthrough. You kind of started, but I kind of jumped on it over you again.
I sat down and I played this, and then I beat it. End of story. No, it, yeah, it took me a little while to get back into it, but the difficulty curve as an adult, considering like what we play with nowadays, it's a much easier title for a simpler time. And I think it was kind of one of those products of its era where, as I said, everything is really well done. Everything is functional. There's not really like clipping issues or anything that I noticed. I love a lot of the backgrounds. I think they did a lot of great work as far as the art style goes. But it's just a straightforward title. It's a very kind of one note, like old school retro side scrolling shooter. And I think that's probably why it wasn't really as a big of a hit as I remember it as a kid.
I can absolutely understand that. And especially as a child, you just have so much more nostalgia for these games that that were not that great. I got a lot of games that are very mediocre and even to bad that I really like. Like there was a Snoopy game for the Game Boy. I love that game, but it sucks.
Well, and see, I don't think Gradius ever made it to the Genesis either. So, like, I could play that in the arcade, and I have played that in the arcade, but I didn't ever have that as on the home console. So having a side scroller like this was kind of my version of Gradius, where it was like, yeah, I get to fly the ship and blow stuff up.
Yeah, you're correct. It never released on the Sega Genesis, although it did make it to the Sega Saturn.
Yeah, well, I don't know how many people actually own a Saturn, to be completely honest with you.
I didn't own it back in the day, but my girlfriend in junior high did, which is kind of weird thinking about that.
See, I know my uncle had Sega CD and he had the Sega Channel. I don't know anybody that had the Saturn, and then I had a bunch of friends that had the Dreamcast, and it was like the last like death throes of Sega as a console company.
Which is so sad because the Dreamcast was such a phenomenal machine. And if
Dude, it
it
was a
weren't
huge machine for sports too.
absolutely, yes, it was. And I actually enjoyed those sports games because they looked like the arcade. Man, have we done a Dreamcast game
No,
yet?
we haven't done a Dreamcast game. Probably because
Man,
I don't think any of us actually owned a Dreamcast.
no, I didn't. It wasn't until I was an adult and finally got I think I rented it one time and played Nights into Dreams. Have you ever played that game?
No.
It's not great, but it's kind of like the I don't know, like it was like the poster child for their 3D space
Okay.
kind of. It's
I
really
just
weird.
know my friend Albert Hibbs had one, and we just played NBA 2K constantly on it.
Well, I think that we have kind of gone through our thoughts on the replay or playing it for the first time in my case. So with that, let's take a break and
Do
we
you
come back.
have a favored level?
Oh, okay. Yes, and I'm going to talk about that in my final thoughts actually.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go. Lay it on me then. Let me hear mechanized cave music.
Welcome back, everybody. This segment is going to be our final thoughts on the game. Is it worth playing today? Is it something I'm going to come back to? And to answer the question that you asked before our break, Corey, you asked me about my favorite level, and that's got to be the fifth stage. And you know what? I can't even call it a stage. They're actually phases because they're not stages, anyhow. The fifth phase is called the Borderline, and that music is so good. It's just that's really what heightened the experience for me because I think that overall, I kind of feel about this how you feel about Sunset Riders. It's just a generic experience. For me, it wasn't anything mind blowing. It was just kind of okay.
It's perfectly functional.
Exactly. It's a very functional title. There's no glaring like problems with it. It's just a really basic game.
Yeah,
The
that's
the
fine.
gra- the graphics, I thought they were really nice looking, really detailed for what they were, but not anything to sit up and take notice about. Nothing that screamed like this is really cool. The levels overall were just kind of all right. Some of them added something interesting, like Phase Two. I'm not going to call it stages anymore, but Mechanized Cave, the one that you called a parking garage.
Yeah.
That stage had something similar to what we saw in Aladdin, where you're traveling through these corridors and you must quickly navigate up and down so you don't crash your ship.
Yeah, or the Battletoads run was be where I would think about it because you're on like a hover bike when you're on the Battletoads run.
That may be a better analogy for it.
Yeah, it's like it's this up and down like twisty hairpin tunnel, and if you crash into the wall, you're done.
Exactly. For me, it was just really bland. I just kept thinking through the entire thing that I would much rather be playing R Type. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I just feel that it had been done better, even by systems of that day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of going through here and looking at some of the bosses. Like, even the bosses were very one note. Like the first one is just a big ship that just shoots a lot of crap at you, and then the one where I died a lot as a kid was the big clamshell guy, like the third stage, and I think that's probably the one of the weirdest and most interesting bosses in this game because it is this it looks like a clam basically. It's got this outer shell and it's invincible while it's inside the shell, and then it shoots out these it's got like these six vents on it, and these turrets come out from the vents, and then they shoot at you. And to kind of get into the boss fight, you have to blow off all the turrets that pop out, and then when it opens up the central eye as well, you have to like kind of hit it in the middle. But it requires like some timing and some preparation. Then it's got like a phase two where the clamshell blows off and it just starts spitting lasers at you. That's like the most detailed boss in this game. Because like the one after that is a guy that just is like a big robot that kind of has like anti-gravity powers, and you just get behind him and shoot him. And then the fifth level that you were talking about, the boss is like a giant gumball man. Like he just kind of slides backwards on this rail, and you chase him, and he like shoots gumballs in the air, for lack of a better word. And then the last boss is just like a big pincer monster.
Yeah, the one that's called Murder Doll, I think looks like a giant Gundam. I think you mentioned that earlier. It just
Yeah, that's the one that he literally he spits out a bunch of rocks at you. But if you get behind him, all he does is he goes up in the air and back down again, up in the air
yeah.
and back down again. And it's like one of those levels where it's got a ceiling above you, so he just has this like anti-gravity thing where he flips from like being upside down to being on the ground again.
Yeah, I felt like there were some interesting ideas, but they just weren't executed to their fullest potential.
Yeah, I mean, or just the fact that like it's 19 what 90 basically.
90. Yeah.
People are like, this is cool. Look at my cool robot shooter game.
But I feel like there was other games even around that time frame that were pushing the envelope in
Yeah,
various
I
different
mean,
ways.
but you don't have to push the envelope with every game. Sometimes you just want a cool robot shooter game.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you.
Sometimes you just want to make something and put it in an arcade cabinet and be able to say, "Hey, look, I made this robot shooter."
And it was popular enough, especially in the arcades.
Popular enough to get ported.
You said that the game didn't hold up for you. Is this something that you're ever going to play again, or are you just kind of disappointed with going back to it?
No, I mean, so it was entertaining enough, and I like the way it looks, and I like the music. So that to me is a big portion of whether or not I can stand playing something. So it's functional enough and entertaining enough to me where if you put this in front of me, I would be like, yeah, I'll waste 20 minutes playing with like this. Like if I was over for the holidays and like my nephew had, like dug out the Genesis, I'd be like, yeah, let's throw down with some Airbuster. But I'm not going to go out of my way for it. I certainly wouldn't buy it as a standalone title. If this was in like the Mega Drive's Classics 2.0 or whatever, I'd be like, yeah, that's an additional selling point to the series. But it's not like it's like cool like Excitebike is cool. It's just a game. Just a competent game.
You can't see, but I'm just nodding along over here.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it. It was a shorter show, everyone, but I think that we kind of discussed the game in its entirety. We talked about each of the level, each of the bosses, what we liked, what we didn't like, and I think that's really gonna be it.
Um Half-Life 2 still on the back burner. We got to figure out what we're doing with that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Um Mainly Chris is holding us up with that because he doesn't have a copy of the Orange Box.
We haven't nailed down exactly what we're doing for next month, our holiday episode. Every
Dude,
year we've done something kind of different.
I want to watch Terminator 2 and talk about it.
I would love that. Okay. All right. Executive decision. That's what we're doing.
Okay.
Terminator 2, Judgment Day. That's what we're going
Yes.
to be watching and talking about. I still have that in. I bought it on Blu-ray and I still have it wrapped up on my shelf. I'm sure I have it somewhere on streaming as well, but I'm a big fan of physical media, so I think I'm going to do that.
I have the aluminum shell collector's edition DVD with all like the commentary and the like where it goes by the frame by frame and it points out like at this scene here like the
Oh, that's
the
so
actor
cool.
the stunt double for Robert Patrick got burned by the steel mill like all that kind of stuff.
Did that really happen?
I don't know. I was just throwing something
Okay.
out. I think there was a problem with that scene though.
I wouldn't doubt it, man. That there was so much dangerous stuff going on in the film. You know what? We got all month to talk about it. Everyone
Yes.
out there, thank you so much.
That'll be a long episode.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's going to be brutal to edit, and oh my god, the music. That's going to be something. I'm probably going to have to rip it from video games. That'll be
Probably.
a lot easier. All right, everyone out there, thank you so much. We've been Superannuated Starman.
Bye.